Badilo chittare beran ave hichki. It all started when I was really young, just that desire to have an idea and the thrill of being able to see that idea materialize on stage in front of people. I draw these parallels between how I live my life and how I make my work, and it's reflected actually in the history of India, which was and has been, invaded repeatedly invaded, over 2,000 years. And India as a country developed this amazing cultural synthesis. They allowed all of that influence to change them without losing their tradition. And I kind of feel like that's how my practice has been. When I was in 4th grade, I directed a reading or a play of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Instead of a book report, I just decided to do a play. And I mean, looking back, 4th grade is pretty young. But, I had the cahoots to be the casting director, the director, the choreographer, and I cast myself as Snow White, of course. So I'm currently performing Bahu-Beti-Biwi, which means daughter-in-law, daughter-wife. And the piece explores my own heritage, modern womanhood, and the changing roles of women in India. And it's a very humorous and confrontational work. It layers dance, vocal percussion, and percussive text, which draws on the complex rhythms from North India, from North Indian music and dance. It layers live singing. I sing live in the piece, poetic imagery and monologue. And I pretty seamlessly use those different theatrical elements to transition between about 9 different characters.
Grind red chilies fine with my new pestle. Throw them in my father-in-law's eyes to blind him. Then I won't have to cover my face.
I was in graduate school and I had created this little study, just a little portrait that was drawn on from this text of an old woman's folk song. And then I created this separate character on a completely different day. And so I thought about this auntie of mine who lives up in Northern California, and she's, her head is always moving, and she's always, like, when she's talking to you, she's always moving, she's always feeding, And so it was really this fun little improvisation I did. And then at the end of the quarter, Vic Marks said, what if you took those 2 separate studies and put them together? Like, how would they relate, or how would they live in the same space? So this totally intrigued me, and I was so interested in the challenge of how are these 2 unrelated women related? And so I worked on that, I mulled that over and created this transition between these 2 separate characters. And the transition held so much more than either of the characters on their own. And that's how I started making this piece. The most challenging moment of making this piece for me, I think, was just the fact that it was a solo and that I had to be subjective and objective at the same time. What was really helpful, so the way that I overcame that was through feedback and through having these great resources that you get in grad school, people who could come and just even tell me what they saw, not say this is good or bad, but just knowing, the impact of what I'm doing and the choices that I'm making, and using video a lot. I would say that was the biggest challenge for me.
Na, 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 na.
Taking away any human freedom to me is wrong. So that's really what the piece is about. It's about the essential desire that we all have to be free, freedom of the human spirit. And literally there was a moment, there's a seed to this piece, which is when I was in the small town of Rajkot, and I'm in a kitchen with my Gaki, my father's brother's wife, and she was probably only 6 years older than me. I was 17, she was 23. And we're rolling rotis, you know, chapatis, like tortillas. I'm just rolling them, you're rolling hundreds of them for the family, and I'm just thinking, oh, this is great. Little village just rolling rotis, and it's hot, and we're sweating, and oh, it's so romantic, you know. And then she popped that bubble by starting to, you know, tell me how she's really feeling about all of this. And she took my hand and she said, you know, and in her broken English, she said, Sheetal, she really wanted me to understand. You know, she said, I'm like you. I'm young blood.
Hand, not any hand, but mine. She takes my hand and says to me, I'm just like you.
The response from audience members has been just incredible. I mean, it's kind of what every artist hopes for, which is that same experience I had as a young person before I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I'm going to see a show and I'm overwhelmed after it, and I'm moved to tears. I can't even explain, you know, what I'm feeling. I mean, that's always the thing that I wanted to give back. I mean, that's why I do what I do, is to give others that transformative, inspired experience.